Congratulations. Hugh, she called you a ball and chain. I call Sean my little ATM machine, so I'm not sure what to say there. And I will say this, that a lot of you are out of work, and we do have 97, 98 Taco Bells. If you need a part-time job, you are more than welcome to come work for us. So if it gets tough and this keeps on, you just let us know. We're glad to give you some jobs.
If you come with your own health care, I really do like you.
So, Robert.
There's no chance we're getting this gig next year.
Be like the Oscars, they will not ask us back. Our daughter was hanging out of the sunroof going into the Oscars. I said, really? And Sean said, like they're going to invite us back next year? I said, yeah, hang out the car window, honey, it's okay. Robert Kennedy once said, there are those who look at things as they are and ask why. I dream of things that never were and ask why not. As the leader of the Congressional Coalition on Adoption for 15 years, Senator Mary Landrieu has held true to her dream of a world in which every child knows the love of a family and the courage and conviction to challenge her colleagues in the United States Congress and leaders from around the world to answer one simple question: why not?
As a fellow New Orleanian, I can say that few fight harder for causes that need fighting for than Senator Mary Landrieu. To me, she was just the mean old sister to Mitch who drove us to football Little League practice every week. Well, we've come a long way, haven't we? From adoption to disaster relief, fair treatment of energy-producing states to high-quality education, Senator Landrieu has developed a reputation as a person who is willing to do whatever it takes to achieve what she knows to be right.
So much so, she has been called a pit bull with Louisiana charm. I like that.
One would know one. It's no wonder y'all get along so well. Wow, no wonder I don't have any more lines.
We're about to get to the good part of this introduction. There are simply no words to describe the impact she has had on the lives of children and the needs of families. Over the last 2 years alone, she has worked tirelessly to ensure that adoptive parents have access to a tax credit, youth and foster care have access to higher education, and social workers have access to information they need to better serve their youth. Like us, she believes a child is never too old to need a family and has pushed federal and state policymakers to do a better job of promoting adoption for older youth. And thank God for Mary. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage one of my heroes, Senator Mary Landrieu.
Thank you, please. You all are wonderful. Thank you so much. Please be seated. This has been a spectacular night. And for those of you, my glasses, those of you that are with us tonight for the first time, it may seem a little overwhelming. We hope that you're enjoying it. And many of you have been here all 14 years, and we welcome you back because this is a very special night in Washington. And we give out special messages that reverberate way beyond the walls of this great Reagan Center where we celebrate tonight. And I just want to thank all of you, each and every one, all of our angels, all of our congressmen, all of our senators and congresswomen, our leaders, and our ambassadors and representatives from countries all over the world for coming tonight and being one family with one purpose and one mission. There are a few things I want to say tonight, and I have the great honor of announcing and presenting to you all our national angels, our third national angel. Really need no introduction. They're known by everyone in the world, Duck Dynasty family. I'll get to them in just a minute. But I want to say a couple of things. First, to my husband, Frank, who is the love of my life and a partner, was a child at 5 years old, adopted out of an orphanage from Ireland, and remembers the day that the lady that ran the orphanage came to him and said, "Ernest, Your parents are here for you. He walked up to his little room in this little children's home in Ireland. We've been back since we've been married. Put his little shirt and his little pants in his little suitcase and walked down the steps and came to America, adopted by a family from Monroe, near where Willie and Korie live in Monroe. They're West Monroe, and was raised by two extraordinary parents. When Frank and I married, I always wanted to adopt. Don't ask me why. God just seared my heart when I was a child with this idea. So when Frank asked me to marry him 7 weeks after we met, and I had figured out that he was adopted, I thought, yes, he is not going to be able to tell me no. I know, so I said yes. Fast forward, always thinking that we would be able to have biological children. Now, this would be rational because my mother and father had 9 of us in 11 years. My parents are madly in love and married 59 years. My mother had no trouble with any of her pregnancies, nothing, and I'm her oldest. So when I couldn't have children, I, just knew this was what God had called us to do. So we adopted the 2 most extraordinary children. Our daughter, Mary Shannon's here. Mary Shannon, would you stand up and give her a round of applause? 16. And our son, Connor's 21. Anyway, they have made our life extraordinary, and so my whole family is built through adoption. And when my son was 12, he looked at me across the breakfast table and said, "Mom, you're the only odd one in our family. Everyone is." So our family is built through adoption. But I want to say, and so I thank them so much for all their support. I also want to say to Kathleen Stratman and to my entire staff, many of them are here, and to all the senators and congressmen whose staff are here, it is really an amazing day as either a mother or a leader or a mentor when your student surpasses you. And Kathleen Stratman is surpassed anything that I could have ever taught her or tried to impart to her about the importance of this issue. She is a young, extraordinary woman, a mother to be of 4 children, married to Matt from a great family. Her mother passed away 2 years ago, which crushed her, but she has survived to continue to lead this effort because Kathleen, like myself, from the moment we were born, were so loved, so completely loved, so totally loved. Never a moment in our life, no matter how horrible we were, and believe me, we were kind of bad growing up, the 2 of us. We might not look like it, but we did a lot of things that our parents could have just shut us out, but they never did. So we both grew up kind of knowing this in our heart. Now, and our faith tells us this, but now science is confirming what we've known since we've both been young girls, that this is really, really important to kids, this unconditional love. It's the way God makes each human being. We can't live without it. We need it more than we know. When they tell you sometimes to drink water even when you're not thirsty, you really need water, even though you don't really know you do. That's kind of how God is when he makes us. There's no substitute for it. There's no amount of anything you could have to substitute it. And I don't know why the world doesn't know this. It's very clear. So when we look at the world, Kathleen and I, and CCI, and my staff that's here, and all of our staff, it's quite simple. We look at a whole world in pain and suffering. We can't alleviate it all overnight, but we do know that connecting every child to a family, staying with the birth family to which they were born first, and if not possible, to quickly step up and connect that child to a loving, responsible adult as soon as possible. You can feed a child, you can shelter a child, you can immunize a child. Only unconditional love can raise that child to be what God created the child to be, and in every faith in the world, this is true. That is why we're here tonight. So I need all of you to help. And even though, I'm going to end this in Dr. Dynasty, even though we have senators and congressmen here, very powerful, we're very powerful. We don't look like it. We're not sounding like it. And the government's not working well, but forget all that. We are very powerful. But you all really are powerful. And so, yes, and don't forget it. But you all are really powerful. And when you decide, like Deborah, you know, she's just amazing to me. I mean, she's just inspired me. I mean, she said, I didn't know what to say, but I knew I needed to say it. Isn't that wonderful? I didn't know what to say, but I knew I needed to say it. So she sang it, and she alone, with you and her kids, are going to change Australia. There are those of you that can change Rwanda. There are those of you that can change Ethiopia. Those can change the US. And we just need to make sure every family is connected and every child, whether they know it or not, really needs unconditional love. It's the way they were made. It's the design of the engine inside of us, our souls. So, Duck Dynasty, which, is there anyone that has not seen Duck Dynasty? 3 people in this audience have not seen Duck Dynasty. They hail from Frank's hometown, my husband, Monroe, West Monroe, right on the other side of the bridge. But Willie and Korie are very famous, have, I think, the widest audience of reality TV shows in America today. They, though, would like to tell you that they weren't always rich and famous. And before they were rich and famous, they decided to open their family to a foster child, an adopted child, along with their 3 biological children, so they have 5. Before they had these big houses and fancy planes and cars and lots of attention, they were just a simple Louisiana family that knows the best thing about life is just family and being together. So now that they've become rich and famous and everyone knows them and everyone wants them to be there, they still talk about the importance of their children, about adoption and foster care. So would you welcome Willie and Korie Robertson up to the stage and welcome them of Duck Dynasty fame and thank them for their extraordinary leadership.
Wow, thank you so much. This is such an honor. And before I forget my mom, I want to make sure and say that my parents are here tonight, John and Chris Howard, and I just want to thank them. It's very important to me that they're here tonight because they modeled a home of hospitality, and they never adopted a child, but I can honestly say there's not very many days of my childhood and growing up, even to this day, that they didn't have someone living in their home that needed a place to live, a mom that came from an abusive situation with her 3 kids that needed a home to live in, or a teenager that needed a place to call home because it wasn't going good in her family. But all growing up, we had people that came into our home because my parents opened their home to people who were in need. And no one has cried tonight, and here I go. Anyway, but a little bit about our story. We adopted our son Will when he was 5 weeks old, and you know, from the moment that he came into our home, actually from the moment that we found out about him, he was ours. I swear I had labor pains the night before I went and picked him up from the foster home that he was living at. And you know, he's our child just like any of our other biological children. And so, you know, I don't think we even thought that much about it. He came into our home, and then a few years later, Rebecca came to us as an exchange student from Taiwan who just never left. She became ours. So we're her American family. And you know, it's one of those things that you just do. You know, you take care of your family and your children, and they're yours, and you don't think a whole lot about it until you have a TV show that a lot of people watch and a lot of people take notice. And Will doesn't look like us, and Rebecca doesn't look like us, and so a lot of people ask us about them. And you know, we are proud to lend our voice and to use the platform that we have through Duck Dynasty to talk to other people into bringing children into their home and finding homes for more kids that don't have it. And you know, I'm just honored and proud to be here tonight and to be able to meet those of you out here, all of you out here that are doing this and are fighting the fight. And you know, we feel humbled, I think, to be here tonight and to be honored in this way. But thank you so much for having us, and thank you for your example and inspiring us tonight.
This is cool. There's no beard on it, though. There's no hair on this. We'll fix that when we get back to Louisiana. Thank you guys so much. We are humbled to be here. You know, I didn't really know what exactly this was. I'll admit. Korie says, Willie, we're going to D.C. I said, great. And she said, you don't have to wear a suit. The food will be free. And we're talking about adoption. I said, I'm in. Let's roll up here. I'm blown away because I feel just such a kindred spirit, you know, because we have lived this and done this, and I'm so encouraged by so many stories and you know, policies, and it's encouraging. Coming here with my politician friends, it's encouraging. I was asked a while ago, did I have any advice for the government shutdown, and I understand what it's like. You should try to get Uncle Si to make duck calls in the duck call room. I understand how hard it is. It's probably harder than running the government of the United States. The book of John tells us about the Lord sacrificing his son for us, and you know, our oldest son's John Luke, and just having to imagine that kind of sacrifice is crazy. And I understand that, because when I looked at, you know, my first son right here, and I thought, wow, yeah, it's just incredible what the Lord did. The book of Ephesians tells us that we are like adoptive children. So when we got little Will, whose name is Willie, when we got him, I understood another passage deeper than I'd known it before, to know that my son, I've got two sons. They look totally different. Little Will, he's wearing my shoes. He's wearing my clothes. He's taking all my shorts.
And he's 11.
He's 11. Our little blind side. He is he's quite the little man, for sure. I tell you what, we made a decision years ago, and I keep stressing it over and over that we didn't have what we have now, for sure. And perhaps if we make decisions like that, perhaps the Lord blesses us because of these decisions that we make. And we made a decision to bring this child into our home and give him a life that we weren't sure what would happen. And I'm not going to say it would have been bad. I just don't know what would have happened. I knew I felt a lot better with him in our home growing up with our family. We made that decision to bring him in, and we did it. We couldn't afford the fee to pay for it, and so we just had to ask them if we can. We're good for it, and we'll come back. And we've paid it, by the way, and then some. But that's where we were at. I think if we wait till everything lines up perfect, it probably won't happen. There are times in our life when you have to make a decision based on faith, and we made that decision. We made a decision also to do a television show that we could sit down and watch with our kids, and that your kids could watch, that would be positive and not a bunch of garbage and stuff, and we wanted it to be positive. We made the decision to do that and to make that show. God has blessed that show. It's watched... was the most watched reality show ever, and I've done a lot of cool things in the past couple of years. I've been to Super Bowls, I've met presidents, I've been all over the world, but I still say this today, after all I've done, the best decision we ever made that made the biggest impact on our life was the adoption of our son, Will, and we're thankful for that. Thank you guys so much.
We're talking Southern up here.
It's the first guy I understood since I've been to D.C.
You know, while he's looking, it's funny because Michael takes such offense when people question the validity that he's our son. He was at an all-star game after the season was over, and he bounced in with the whole team to go eat at one of our Taco Bells. And he told the manager, he said it was like $65. Folks, that's a lot of food at one of our stores. He said, put it on your manager's card. And she said, why would I do that? And he said, because my dad owns this store. And she stopped and she said, and I'm the Queen of England. And Michael said, he called her, you need to fire this lady. She doesn't think I'm your son. And Sean said, Michael, let me talk to her. And he thanked the lady for doing her job. And, let me talk to Michael. He said, Michael, I know you find this hard to believe, son, but you don't look like we birthed you. He thinks we birthed him.
I've kind of gotten used to it, and it's said all the time that when they see me and then they see Leanne and they say, in nice football terms, Sean, you outkicked your coverage. Willie, your punt didn't even land in the stadium. That wasn't on the script either. We for doggone sure ain't getting invited to this one. Well, Leanne, I'm not sure if you know this, but Willie's dad, Phil, and I have a lot in common.
Is that right?
Yes, it is. As you know, we were both born in Louisiana. We both had successful sports careers in college, me at Ole Miss and him at Louisiana Tech, La Tech. I mean, they wrote Louisiana Tech, but I know the difference. And we both gave it all up to launch our successful business careers.
Well, and don't forget that you both had the good sense to marry good women. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true, but his cooks.
You don't look like you've missed many meals, honey.
Man, that wasn't on the script. I thought I was going to get by.
No. That's enough of you, absolutely. Our final presenter of the evening could teach us all a lot about the meaning of family. Father to 8 children, Jack Gerard serves as chairman of CCAI's board of directors. As if that is not enough to keep anyone busy, Jack somehow finds the time to serve as co-host of the George Washington University Graduate School of Political Management's Council on American Politics. I hope they pay you a lot for that. Good gosh, that's a long title. A longtime supporter of the Boy Scouts of America and is active in its church leadership and presides over 8 I'm sorry. I'm going to act like at my age of 54. I'm going to go, now I can see, look. Okay, and is active in his church leadership and presides over 8 congregations with 3,200 members.
Well, and don't forget that he does have a day, J-O-B, as my daughter would say.
J-O-B.
He is the president and CEO of the American Petroleum Institute, the national trade association that represents all aspects of America's oil and gas industry. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to stage Jack Gerard.
Thanks, Fred. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you all for being here this evening. Let's give another round of applause to the Tuohys for a job well done tonight. And also to our other honorees this evening, the Robertsons, to Rita, and to Deb, Oscar, and their driver, Hugh, who's with them here tonight. Round of applause for all. Now, we've had an extraordinary evening tonight, and again, we want to thank you all for your generosity. There are other angels that don't often get mentioned in these forums or in these events as we come together, and I want to take one moment tonight and to acknowledge those who've made this evening possible. First, and if you'll turn to page 3 of your program, I won't take the time to go through all these tonight, knowing that the evening is late, but to encourage you to look at all those who have made it possible, not only for us to come together tonight, but to support these great young men and women, some of whom we've heard from tonight, and to support this great cause of adoption and foster care. So let's give a round of applause to our platinum partners, the American Petroleum Institute, the Annie Casey Foundation, the Casey Family Programs, Comstock Homes, Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption, the Freddie Mac Foundation. A round of applause for our platinum partners tonight. But I also want to mention our gold partners, Chevron, the Cruise Industry Charitable Foundation, Elmer and Sandra Doty, ExxonMobil, Fluor Corporation, Retail Orphan Initiative, and Ken and Barbara Stratman. Let's give them all a round of applause. And also to the others listed in the program, thank you, thank you, thank you for making this possible tonight and for the good work, and make it possible for this very small staff of CCAI, led by Kathleen Strawman, to do extraordinary things in behalf of us all. Now, before I give one other special thanks, I want to also acknowledge all those who represent the Congress here tonight, but specifically Senator Landrieu. And you've heard her colleagues acknowledge her tonight for her great work, but none of this would have happened without her. As I often tell many of you, and being in the oil and gas business, she has an interest in that, coming from Louisiana. But every time I go to see her, we talk about one thing, and it's not oil and gas most time. It's always adoption. Senator Landrieu, thank you very much for your extraordinary leadership. Now, one last special thanks tonight goes to the Freddie Mac Foundation. As many of you know, it will soon close, but over the last 20 years, the foundation has invested over $300 million in the children and families of the DC area. They have been a partner of CCAI all throughout this time, and we want to give them special note and acknowledgement tonight, and a sincere thank you for your generous support throughout the years. Thank you to the Freddie Mac Foundation. Now, as we leave here tonight, I would ask you to consider one last thing. For those who have been inspired to go out to adopt, to take in your home a foster youth that you might make a difference in their life, but to also think of what it takes to run a small but very effective organization like this. If you look in the front of your program, we have a small envelope and a chance to make a contribution, as small as it may be, to our organization to help us continue on and to continue this great work. We have baskets by the side of the doors here as you depart tonight. For those who didn't bring their checkbook, I'm not sure that we take your credit cards, but please take it home tonight with the same spirit you felt tonight and the excitement knowing what a great job this small organization does. Please be generous, help us in the cause, and thanks to all of you tonight as angels that make a difference in the life of children. Thank you very much for all you do.
All right, you can start putting your shoes back on. That's what she tells me in church. You know what they say, all good things must come to an end. And I'm hoping that each of you leave here tonight with a renewed desire to help a child in need. Doing just that changed Leanne and my life forever. Next time you're at the checkout counter at the grocery store, spend an extra minute getting to know the cashier. Offer to drive an elderly neighbor to church on Sunday. Mentor a young person. Remember, it's not what you do that is important. It is just that you do it.
And I will say this as you lay this in on the script. Remember, families don't have to match. If there is not someone in your social circle that doesn't look like you, shame on you. Remember that. Everyone deserves a forever family. There are Michael Orrs in every nook and cranny of the world, and all they need is a chance. So, congratulations again To everyone, all of the award winners, may your stories continue to serve as an example to others of the miracles that happen when you step forward to help a child who is in need of a family. And may God bless you all. Thank you so much for coming. Good night.